iHeartRadio presents Podversations, a weekly discussion with the biggest names and influencers in podcasting.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's installment of the iHeartPodcast Network Speaker Series. This is my favorite part of the week. We get to stop down and talk with a partner of iHeartMedia, somebody that we have entered into a relationship to make incredible content. And we do it through the lens of podcasting. That's the framework of these conversations. But we are incredibly grateful to be working with creators from all walks of media. We've worked with book authors and filmmakers, and this week's session is no exception. It's going to be an awesome discussion with Frankie Quinones. First of all, Frankie, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. You do a lot of stuff, and I'm sure some stuff is not getting done right now because you have chosen this half an hour with us. I appreciate it.
No. Appreciate you guys, and thanks for saying the Quinones part right. Yeah.
And my partner in crime today to talk to Frankie is Hans Sani. Hans, thank you for hanging out. Hans runs a podcast network that we launched with Will Ferrell maybe 2 years ago now called Big Money Players Network. Thank you, Hans.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, Frankie, I think I'd be remiss in not starting with what I think is an obvious question, right? Like, you are one of the funniest people for my money alive, making funny content today. It has been a weird year and a half as we've all moved in quarantine and we haven't really figured out yet how to live. It's been a really hard year to make comedy, I imagine. Like, everything is suddenly funny and therefore nothing is funny and everything feels absurd and ridiculous. How did you handle that? Like, just to cut straight to the chase, telling jokes in a year like 2020 and early 2021, how do you process that as a very, very funny guy?
Oh, man. I mean, it was depressing, homie, in the beginning, you know what I mean? And then I was like, oh, they're going to do the Zoom shows or whatever, you know? And then so I'm living by myself at the time, and like my family lived close, but they have underlying health conditions. So we were kind of just doing that, you know, meet in the front yard type shit. Oh, can I cuss on here or probably not?
Please do. In fact, we insist on it.
Okay. Well, I was doing this motherfucking bullshit ass Zoom show shit. No, but it was dope that those were there, but it was just so weird, man, because it's like you're trying to put all your energy into the screen because we're used to being around people and the energy, and that's my lane. I'm like, I feed off people. I'm not like, oh, I'm on the stage, I'm the one running the thing. I'm like, it's all of us together making it pop. So when it was just like, I'm just putting all my energy to the screen, and I felt like, I'm like, okay, I thought that was pretty good. And then I just like lowered my laptop and I'm like just in my room by myself, like, okay, well, I guess I'll try to face my demons now, but I ain't trying to do that shit either. But it was a weird time, man. And then, you know, I was writing and stuff like that, but it's hard because you got to develop those jokes like on stage. Those things come like on stage and living your life. So I'm just talking from my point of view, but I wrote a lot of the stuff I wrote about was like pandemic stuff, and it's funny, but I'm almost even, now that things are opening back up, I'm like even just tired of even talking about it. I'm like, let's get back to the normal shit, you know, but
yeah.
But I don't know, this whole Delta shit going on, so I don't know, we'll see what's up.
Hard to tell what's normal and not normal. I mean, you have a bunch of the list is long of things you've done. You're a comedian, yeah, but you're an actor, you're a creator, you make all kinds of content. You're maybe best known for your character work.
Oh yeah.
Things like Creeper, you have an HBO Max special, Super Homies. I mean, you've been busy. I'll steal one more question before throwing to you, Hans, but how did this start for you, Frankie? Like, what was the moment in your life as a kid, in high school, maybe late, that you realized, hang on, whatever I'm doing right now, this is actually what I want to do for the rest of my life? What is that origin story? I think sometimes that's the most interesting stuff, is where it all started. What was the moment for you?
Yeah, I mean, I owe everything to my familia, you know, my homie, I mean, my homie, my familia, you know, much as my family, my mom and dad. They always had stand-up on in the house, always, we religiously watch like In Living Color, Saturday Night Live, Culture Clash. They would let me watch, like, even as a 6-year-old, I was watching Eddie Murphy, George Carlin, Richard Pryor, Paul Rodriguez, like, you know, all the legends, you know, and they just always had it on in the house. And, you know, they were going through some tough times. I told you before, I was like, but I always had everything I needed. Me and my sister, we always had food on the table. You know, we had love. Even though we didn't have, you know, we might not have had all the money in the world, but whatever. I found a sprinkler head in my dad's truck, and I was like, all right, this is gonna be my microphone, and I'll perform for my mom and dad in the living room. And so it was always itching because I saw how powerful it was. Like, and then as you get older, because you know, you're a kid, you're just like, oh, like, you know, mayonnaise sandwiches and cheap cereal, like it's all good, like that's what we do. But like thinking back, like, dude, when I was my dad's age, he's raising 2 like teenagers at this point. I'm like, dude, that's fucking crazy. But I saw how humor, positivity, laughter really helped them get through that. You know what I mean? And so, and then when I saw that could be funny, and I was getting kicked out of class a lot. They had a lot of bullshit to do with. I was always class clown, but it was always itching in my head. I was like, I wanted to try stand up. I want to try stand up. But I was already like 24 when I did my first stand-up set, and then, you know, then led to my first gig for $20 and 2 free drinks, and I'm like, oh shit, we gotta make it, you know. And yeah, that was like 16 years ago, man. So it's been quite a ride, but I stuck with it. Luckily, I have my family for support, and I didn't get any random homegirls pregnant, and so it allowed me to make it happen. And still, you know, I still got a long way to go. Obviously, I'm not like this, you know. But yeah, to be able to pay your bills, like doing what you love, which is for me, making people laugh, is I'm very grateful for it. And now I'm just trying to take it to the next level right here with this project. So it's good.
Frankie, I want to jump in and ask you, I remember when we first shared some of your work and we were talking to Will Ferrell, and we were like, you know, this Frankie, we're such a big fan of him. He does these really...
He does comedy, right?
Yeah, he's got a little bit of experience. Yeah. And he knows a thing or two about characters too. And that was a thing that I think to him was really exciting about your work. And what he said to us was, I love how specific it is. I love how specific his voice is and these characters are. And I remember you and I having early conversations and you telling us that some of it comes from like a pretty personal place for you too. So can you just talk to us about maybe like 1 or 2 of, you know, the characters that you've created and like where it comes from for you?
Yeah, my most popular characters come from straight up my family, and then but all my characters come from people that I've been around throughout my life. Creeper is an extension of my father. My dad was always an old school cholo, always had a lowrider. He's, you know, Dickies, you know, he had his palm comb, and you know, and just like, but a very good father. Always drive me to Little League practice in his lowrider truck, and just, you know, always like words of positivity for me, like, hey, mijo, you live with gratitude and treat people with respect, all right? And you better work hard or I'll beat your ass. And I'm like, all right, Dad, that's what's up, you know? But I went through my little wannabe cholo stage too, and my dad was like, my mom was like, he's not dressing like that, fuck that, you know? And then my dad was like, nah, he's gonna do it right. My dad was waking me up at like 5 a.m. to crease my, he's like, if you're gonna do it, you can do it right. But I was like, to like starch and crease my pants, my shirt, everything. Homie, I lasted like a month, and I was like, fuck that. I switched back to Bugle Boy cargo shorts and fucking jeans. You just throw those in the dryer, you're all good. But you know, it was just like that. Like Creeper's an extension of my father, and most of my cousins are like cholos, and thankfully, I'm very grateful that most of them like got their stuff together. And like cholo culture doesn't always have to be affiliated with violence and gang. Like, it's getting more and more popular, you know, with, you know, photography, with art, with all this stuff. Like, it's like it's a positive thing. And so like Creeper embraces that. Like, my dad's been through a lot of stuff, my cousins, but in the end they found the lane of positivity to be the best way to progress in their life and to find happiness in life. And so you know, Creeper not only embraces that mentally, but also he's a fitness instructor, homie. So he helps you with the physical part too. You know what I mean? So that's Creeper. And then I got Juanita Carmelita. JC is just straight up my mom. My mom, you know, she likes to drink her wine, and she does her motivational speech, you know, just like, you could do whatever you want in life. You know, you paint your picture, then you live it, and that's it. And then she'll pass out right after because she's pretty drunk. And then, well, you know, but then she'll take a little power nap and she's back at it. But yeah, it's all everything's inspired by my family. So, but yeah, with that, like when Will was like, I love that he said that. I'm all Will, like we're on a first name basis, but Will Ferrell was like, I love how specific characters are, because we've been doing this a long time, and I've been straight up told like, no, don't do those characters. It's too stereotypical. Too many people are doing it. It's just not original enough. And I'm like, no, but trust me, Creeper's like a real homie. He's not just another, hey, I'm a cholo, I stab people. It's like, no, this fool's a fitness instructor. He's got some layers, there's some depth to him. And then and I just stuck with it, man. And then so now here we are. So thank you guys for noticing that and giving me the opportunity to get it out there.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of touched on this, but I want to ask you a little bit about that. Like you said, there was other people who were doing a little bit of this kind of comedy, and were doing a little bit of like the Mexican American accent too. But the way that you've done it has really kind of struck a chord with people, and the character of Creeper is this like viral sensation. So what do you think it is about what you're doing that helped stand out from some of the other people and made it unique and different from what other people have done?
I'm a fan of all types of humor, like over the top characters and that real slapstick shit. Like I'm a fan of that too. If it makes people laugh, we all need to laugh more. So I'm like, hell yeah, do that. But just for my personal brand and name, I like to keep my characters as grounded as possible. And to this day, there's people that think Creeper's a real fool, and it's like crazy. They're like, what? That mustache is fake? And I'm like, yeah, man, you couldn't tell, like, But it's like when I meet people at shows, I feel like I know them already because they've watched the video so much, and they look at you in a way where I look them in their eyes and I feel that connection. I'm like, oh, we're homies. What's up? You guys get it. And I didn't travel much until comedy, and then once Creeper went viral and they invited me to these cities where I would never think that I could do what I do. It was real eye-opening, you know what I mean? Because, we're going to all over the country, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Florida, New York, and people are showing up and they got love. And I'm like, oh, hell yeah. So that's what's up. So, I think there's some real opportunity there to reach a lot of people. And there's some that stick in my head that I've met around the country that I'm just like, wow. It's eye-opening. Like there was like this group of like 6 older women in Minneapolis, and they were like, not to say like, oh, they were old as fuck, but I mean, they were old, homie, but they were like their crew, like they knew, and they couldn't wait to come, and they were like hanging out after. I was just like, what the fuck, dude? Like, it's crazy, man. So I'm like, it's good to see that, we got something for everybody. But I honestly always felt that in my heart. I'm like, I know I'm specific and I'm staying true to my voice, but I think a lot of people could connect with that. We do find common grounds and things to relate to, like no matter where you're from. So
it's interesting because the comedy that you do, the stories you tell, it seems like it's so filled with positivity and even love. Whereas I feel like it could go much more if you wanted to into negativity or political commentary, much harder core, and it stays very positive, very loving. Can you just talk about that choice that you've made? At some point, that's a choice you make, and maybe it's just that's just where I come from. I was always in a family setting of positivity and love. But A, talk about that choice. B, maybe talk about, do you ever feel like, okay, I need to go really dark on this next character because the news cycle is just blowing me up right now? Just maybe talk through that a little bit.
Yeah, it's I mean, like, there's always a layer of optimism and positivity in everything I do, like, I like to get real, for sure. Politics, they're really not my thing. I mean, I respect people got to have, you have your voice, and believe me, I fucking, man, last year, it's like, we all had to donate and do our parts and all that stuff, but, and I'm a fan of political humor for the people that are good at it. I'm just not academic enough, or I don't do enough research to even try to go there. So my whole thing is just like, I don't want to have that divide in my room. Like not saying that makes me a better comic. I'm just saying like, that's my shit, is like, we're not, let's have an escape from that. Like, let me just talk about, whatever, do our thing. I might touch on it here and there, but like my mom and pops were like, it really was like they weren't always, I was kind of an angry person. They had every reason to be angry at the world. They're sharing one room with 5 brothers and sisters, all that shit. But, they always had that chip on their shoulder, like, oh, we're going to do better. And then, but as things got better for them, it's like positivity became like their religion. You know what I mean? And it's that real shit, like a motherfucker that's really been through some shit. And I know homies, I got cousins, they spent, decade in jail and all that stuff. And they've really and now all they want to do is help people. And like, so that resonates for me a lot. I'm not saying that, I get it. I'm a fan, I know there's the good vibes only white girls at Coachella, like good vibes only, peace and love. I love everybody. Like, that's all good too. At least you're being nice. It's not that hard to be nice. But like, to see somebody like my mom and dad to go through everything they went through and to find like positivity to just be like their fuel to get them to the next step. Like, I fully embrace that in my comedy. I fully in everything I do, and just my way of life, just like, leading with gratitude, just fucking grateful for every breath. Cause I'm like, fuck, I don't know when this shit's gonna end. Look, a pandemic, like we could have all died. I don't fucking know. Like, why waste energy on being angry about anything? Like, but I am a fan of that type of humor too. Sitcoms, those are always like, people are always usually mean to each other in sitcoms because those are easy jokes. It's like, oh, look at you, blah, 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 blah. And that's all good, it's funny. But yeah, I try to give more layers and depth and like, hit those emotions where I'm making you laugh out loud, but also like, oh shit, there's some love in here somewhere. I'm feeling it, and it's just like, that's what I'm trying to get you, homie. I'm trying to get you in the heart with some real shit.
I want to ask, so you're also a touring stand-up comedian. You've been touring recently with Craig Robinson, right?
Oh yeah.
Which is awesome. And you mentioned this, that like you perform shows not just in LA and not just on the coast, but in parts of the country where, in LA, Mexican American culture is just like part of the city, it's part of the blood. But like, what's it like performing to a crowd in LA versus a crowd somewhere else in the country where people might not be as familiar with some of the references you're making?
Yeah, I'll cater to, like, I don't change like my whole set, like, cause in the end, funny is funny. You know what I mean? Like, I can't like be specific to talking about the King Taco in fucking, Florida. Like, only people in LA know where King Taco is. It's open late, it goes straight through you, kind of clears you out. It's a natural cleanse. But yeah, I would say for the most part, like I talk about my family a lot on stage and stuff like that. And, everybody can relate to family. So, but, yeah, when I'm in LA, I definitely lean harder into even just the West Coast in general, Texas, New Mexico, all that, Florida too. It's funny though, going to the East Coast, because I didn't even know about, obviously there's a lot of Latinos in America. I don't know if you guys noticed, but there's so many different types, homie, you know what I mean? And growing up in LA, like, even if you were Cuban or whatever, you were Mexican. Like, that's how people saw you, because that's just, we're the majority out here. We're the majority in the country, not to be like saying cool about it, but it was a trip for me going to the East Coast, because it's like, it's a whole different vibe. And unfortunately, you find out about the beef that, like, oh, Cubans don't like Mexicans and Venezuelans don't like, and I'm like, what? I thought it was on. But it was good to get that love, though, because they're covering the shows. They leave letters out, though. Like, they don't say Cholo Fit. They say Cholo Fit, Papa, hey, Cholo Fit. And I'm like, oh, yeah, Cholo Fit, man, that's what's up. Like, but yeah. It was like that was something I had to learn on my own on a personal level, because I never traveled to a lot of these places. And when I went and they were receptive to my comedy, I would say that's when I knew I had something like that could be that was special. Like, I was like, man, if this person who's never even been to California is coming to my show and loving what I do, then it's all good. The characters helped me get there though too. It's like I told you before, Hans, I'll go to shows and Creeper's a fitness instructor. A lot of times people forget that. So there's real fitness instructors. They come with their whole classes to my shows and and I'm like, oh, you know what I mean? So
that is amazing. The fact that like a class of fitness instructors to see Creeper, maybe to learn some stuff about fitness instruction. So listen, we've taken a bunch of your time, Frankie, but let me close out with focusing a little bit on this podcast. You do a bunch of stuff. We've talked a lot about it here on this interview. You do stand-up comedy. You have a new special on HBO. I think Creeper has a Creeper's Cabernet Sauvignon coming out. I mean, you're all over the place. Yes, I feel like we're about to get a visual on it. Here it is.
Hey, it's funny you mentioning that right now, homie, because I happen to have a bottle right here, but
I set that one up. So podcasting, audio is different, right? Like Hans and I do audio every day. It's what we do. It's where we tell stories. Was audio hard for you? You take all the visuals away, the stuff that you've honed, gotten incredible at. What's podcasting like?
Oh, homie. So, I got to a point where I'm like, damn, every comedian has a podcast, and it's like this and that. And I personally, if it's like a theme podcast and stuff like that, I like it, but I get tired of getting interviewed on podcasts. It's the same questions, the same thing. Or some look for like controversy, they'll be like, hey, how do you feel about so-and-so, like da-da-da, and I'm like, homie, really? Like, come on, man, like, so they could have the YouTube like thing, and like, all love to those people. I get it, it's a business, but what I love with big money players is they're giving me the opportunity to do what I've been dying to do, which is like, it's basically like a throwback. Like I don't know too many podcasts that are doing, these are scenes. They're not like interviews or it's like an ode to Cheech and Chong, the Monty Python shit, Adam Sandler CDs, Jerky Boys, all that. I mean, Jerky Boys maybe not hold up. I was listening to some of their old shit. I was like, oh shit, I can't say that today, buddy. But I remember like throwing on those CDs or those tapes and just like dying and laughing, and then because you have a little bit more creative freedom too when it's just audio. And when I was a kid, I would dub tapes on audio cassette, and I would pretend I was a DJ, and I would do skits, like even back in the day. So I could probably dig those some out. They're probably like in my parents' storage or something, but it's like, it's a very, this one goes deep for me, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, we sold a TV show to Hulu. We got fucking, other like another animated show. We saw like shit's cracking, but this one I'm like really excited about. It's a lot of work because all those little sounds and this and that, and then Hans's notes are crazy all the time. Nah, just kidding. but one thing I know for sure is that it's gonna be funny as fuck and that people are gonna like it, and it's an opportunity to like I think people are gonna feel that nostalgic side of it too. But also, I think it'll speak to a younger crowd also, and then just people listening to it. There's so many little funny things. It's like, because I'm very like precious about my stuff, and I get shit for that. I'm like, hey, especially with social media, because I'm 40 now, homie, and it's like, no, the TikTok, the Snapchat, the thing, and I'm like, no, but that doesn't, like, no, just post it. Don't be so precious with it. And I'm like, oh, okay, I post it, and then it like gets like 5 million views, and I'm like, that got fucking 5 million views. This fucking video that I spent 3 weeks on with the whole production team got fucking 60,000 views. Like, not that I'm all about views, but it's just interesting. So I'm like, but yeah, with the podcast, it's like I'm being very precious with it, going, and I'm just excited because I just believe in it with all my heart, and I know it's gonna be funny as fuck, and I think people are gonna be excited to share it with each other. It's just like, I'm like, hell yeah. So I'm pumped.
That is awesome, man. Well, I agree with you. First of all, I will give Hans and Will Ferrell a shout out. I think the thing you guys are building in Big Money Players is just some of the funniest, smartest stuff out there, whether it's Bowen Yang, Matt Rogers, Nikki Glazer, or Frankie. And then Frankie, just thank you so much, man. Like, we we like all the stuff we put out there, but you can kind of tell when there's it's sort of an energy or an electricity in the staff around a new show that we're putting out there that we're particularly psyched about. And this is one of those, man. So I really do appreciate you partnering with us. It's going to be really, really great.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna represent for you to the fullest, homie. Don't even trip. You're gonna have to tell your homies right there in Florida. Hey man, yeah, tell them about that shit.
Podversations is a production of iHeartRadio. You can find more from the biggest names in podcasting on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.